Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Meets Finance. I have the pleasure today of interviewing and having conversation with a wonderful friend, Miss Veronica Harris, real estate extraordinaire.
Oh.
And she's here to give us some little tidbits about what we should and shouldn't be doing in the real estate world. So, Veronica, how are you?
I'm amazing, and I love that Canadian reference, little Timbits. So I'm doing well, Anthony. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. So let's dive in right into it and talk a little bit about real estate. Obviously, we've had quite the volatility in real estate and some things about interest rates, up and down and what have you. The the depreciation of real estate happening. And questions when a consumer is looking for a real estate agent and who they'd like to hire to sell their property, or for as a buyer who they'd like to interview and representing them. What would you suggest, or what would you offer as far as speaking to a consumer, and if they're asking you, how could I attract more buyers if I'm selling a property? What would I need to do to make my home look like a castle?
A little bit more sexy than the others on the street?
For sure.
Fair. Great question. So I think first and foremost, it's photography. There's, a lot of agents out there who think that a photo or a shot on their phone will suffice. I'm sorry to tell you that is not true. There may be some units that do sell from camera phone shots, but you should really have an agent who invests in photography. It doesn't have to be the best in the world, the most expensive, because every seller is different, right? So I think you need to find what photographer fits that niche, that seller, and that home. So something a little bit mid-century or a farmhouse, you're gonna wanna choose a photographer who has a little more experience in landscapes and editorial shots, as you would someone living in super modern home with chrome and marble everywhere, right? So photographer is one. What is about this home that these buyers are gonna love, right? Is it by a ravine? Is there cute coffee shops around? We don't know. We can't tell that just by looking at the photos. So a nice description is something that is a huge bonus. Virtual tours and 3D floor plans. Floor plans are huge. Sometimes you'll see on MLS 2,000 square feet, but there's no descriptions, no detail after that. If that. Sometimes you don't even know the square footage. You just see the range on MLS. So that's big. Social media and marketing is huge when you want to sell your home. So you want to choose an agent and a brokerage that has a huge, or at least a good marketing company, a good creative system. We have a really good creative company that we work with in-house, and they do wonders. Look, we can't all be Jane of all trades, Jack of all trades, but you know what? It's okay to sometimes reach out and be like, look, can you help me create this for my client? And I think this is going to be a shameless plug here, but having two brokerages work for you for the price of one is something that I myself can offer. And I think, you need to find an agent who is going to broaden that horizon and is going to get your home out there to every depth of this country, world even. You never know where your buyer is coming from.
Awesome. So you wouldn't recommend any instant Polaroids then as the...
the only time I would recommend instant Polaroids is if we're throwing like an open house or a party and we have them at the door.
Oh, awesome.
I think that's a cute idea.
Oh, it definitely would, it would help in the conversation piece right away.
Absolutely.
And set up the tempo for it. Oh, awesome. So, some concerns for a lot of consumers when they're selling their property, they often ask, what is it I need to do to my home to help improve it? So like that, it needs to be attractive to the buyer. I understand, there's a lot of things that real estate mentioned from time to time about decluttering and whatnot. Maybe you can offer us, your opinion and some suggestions on what the consumer could do to make that home a little bit more attractive.
Absolutely, always declutter, always declutter. As much as you can, depersonalize. I just got married a couple years ago. Yes, I love that photo of me and my wife up on the wall, but that's not gonna help a potential buyer come in and see themselves in this home, right? put it in the back for now. And then once you're done, once the home is sold, you can then bring it back out. But depersonalize as much as possible. Paint. Paint is something that can go such a long way. And if you don't like painting, we'll get you, a paint by numbers, and we can hire someone out to actually paint your home. But paint's a huge deal. It's a minimal cost in the grand scheme of things, the sale of your home, and it can do so much. Right. So if you're, for example, if you have a modern home, you're gonna wanna go for a white def paint. If you have a home a little more rustic with earthy tones, you wanna go with a paint called Swiss Coffee. So it's just, trying to get that wow factor the moment a potential buyer sees your home. Flooring's huge. A lot of people don't change their flooring for quite some time.
Right.
But if it needs an update, it needs an update. There's a lot of, if you don't want to spring for, the expensive stuff, that's fine. There's a lot of really nice vinyl laminate that are available nowadays.
So there's a lot of costs that come along with selling a home. And I think what often, a lot of question that the vendor has or the seller has is, what other costs can be, associated with selling a home. We know that there's obviously the real estate costs and lawyers, and when also purchasing a home from a purchaser's perspective, there's closing costs and whatnot. Are there any other additional costs? Or maybe what I should ask is, what's your take on one of the costs that a seller might incur is staging a home? Is that important in thinking, as part of the costs, a larger cost? Would you see staging a home as an important, part of selling?
Absolutely, and much like paint, staging it's something I feel is quite minimal in respect to the funds you're going to receive when you sell a home, but it's something so powerful. So if you have, let's say, a seller who lives in their home, 99.9% you're not going to do a full stage, right? It's just it doesn't make sense. Sometimes staging is a cardboard box with a bed sheet over it, right? So, but you can do a partial stage, and that's something actually we're working with one of our listers now. Our sellers is, she lives in the home, she's lived there for 9 years, right? There's some really cute furniture and artifacts in her home that we think are actually gonna help her sell the home, so why get rid of it?
Right.
But there are some places that, need a little bit of zhuzh, a little bit of pillows, the light fixtures need to be replaced. And so I think that it's small cost, but it really, really helps in the end.
Awesome, great advice. Moving on to the next question, I guess. When there's a lot of anxiety for a consumer to sell their home, am I going to get the top price? Did I choose the correct real estate agent to represent me or whatnot? And I guess every real estate agent is going to be different. Do you have a process as to how you communicate with your clients? What updates do you give them? Do you keep them, in the now as to, how their home is being featured? And, maybe take us a little bit through that process of what you do personally to help remove that anxiety from the clients.
Absolutely. So quick backstory. Growing up, and even now, sometimes I can be a little persistent. Sometimes where it's like, okay. But in this instance, this is actually quite beneficial because like any healthy relationship, communication is key, right? So when you're selling someone's home, most of the time, their most prized possession and the biggest transaction of their life. They want to know what's going on. They want to know who's coming in my home. What do they think of my home? What's the feedback? They want to know, what did the lawyer say? What did our preferred mortgage broker, Sherwood Mortgage, what are they saying? Right? So I think communication weekly, doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's, hey, just wanted to let you know that we had one client come in today, this week, and this is what they thought. Or just want to let you know, not a whole lot happened this week, but have you reached out to your lawyer? Have they told you about this, what you need to prepare for your closing? Things like that. So communication's key. Just, I think, touch base at least once a week. At least.
Awesome. Right. That's great advice. And I'm going to go on solo on this one here, and I'm going to ask a question.
Ooh,
Another question. Off the beat. In this environment, obviously, everybody's, again, we go back to the anxiety piece. of the seller selling their home. How can you remove that anxiety again from a seller, given this market that we're in? And when you have to approach a seller again and tell them that they need to lower their price, what do you do to prepare them for that? What can you tell us?
Yeah, great question. Show them the facts. Show them the facts. There's many instances where, let's say, people in COVID, they bought high.
Right.
They're looking to sell, and they want to sell just as high as they bought, and the numbers just aren't. The math isn't mathing, right? So you got to show them the facts. You got to show them the market stats. You got to show them the growth every year that their home, without any improvements, the growth of their home, how much it has improved. What improvements have you put into the home, right? So I think that real estate is such an emotional item or emotional thing in life that if you take it with, it may sound corny because it is a business, but if you take it with compassion and heart, you can't go wrong. And sellers and buyers can't get upset with you if you say, look, the math says that we should actually list for, let's say 1.15, but the seller's like, no, I really want to list for 1.9 because that's what I bought at. So as long as I think you're being clear and straightforward, there's no room for miscommunication, misinterruption, what's the word? Misrepresent. Yes. It's Friday.
That's all right. That's all good.
So just be clear, be concise, be straightforward, and compassion.
Yeah, just be honest throughout the whole thing, right?
Kind.
That's it. Be genuine.
Be genuine, man.
That's
My
it.
God.
That's it. Well, that's great, and I think that's all really a consumer can expect, right? Is honesty, integrity, and based on the overall values of what it means to be working with a professional.
Absolutely.
We've got that in you for sure.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
And one more thing, Anthony, sorry, is I don't think everyone knows Google. Right? Everyone knows, well, a lot of people know Google. Go to your realtor's page, check out their Google reviews. I think that's so important. I think a lot of people don't do that, whether they're forced into choosing their realtor or they just think they're cute, whatever. It doesn't matter the reason. I think you owe it to yourself to do just as much research on your realtor as you can. Yeah. It's your home. My God.
Yeah. I mean, we're near our last, we're going to get to our last question. And really, I want to sell my house. And I just saw this huge billboard, Veronica Harris, real estate extraordinaire. Now I'm thinking, I've contracted you. You've sold me. And now I want to have my open house. Yeah. What can I expect? What am I getting out of this open house? What can I expect?
If it's your house, if it's Anthony's house we're selling, you're going to expect a huge party. Probably a pool party, to be honest.
Is it?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
I think so. I think that's the route I would go. But for everyone else or anyone else, everyone is different. Everyone has their own vibe. There may be a seller who actually doesn't want an open house. And my team would say, well, here's why we think you should, right? I've had sellers who are like, no, I don't want anyone in my home. We're like, well, that's going to be a little tricky to sell, matter of fact. But I think if you have a realtor who treats the home like it's their own, then open house can go super smooth. Typically we list or we do an open house the weekend after we list. The fire's there, the energy's there, everyone's pumped. It's a new listing, less than 7 days on market. Let's go for it. Usually it's 24 hours a heads up.
Okay.
Is preferred. Sometimes it's not, like when someone's living in the home. Sometimes it's not. But you want to give the homeowner enough time to, one, clean, to make sure it's showing ready or open house ready. And two, give them enough time to plan their day.
Right.
So open houses, they can be a lot of fun. We also do brokers open for everyone and anyone in the industry. Yeah, because you know what? If we have you over and we can show and share all the details of the home, this gives you a better opportunity to share with your client, which in turn helps the home sell. So everyone's happy.
So that's sort of part of your process on the open house. You sit with them, you'll go through it, let them know what they can expect as far as, who they can expect to come through. You'll give them an idea of maybe some of the other open houses that are comparable to theirs and kind of prepare them for that and what they can expect on who might be walking through.
Yeah, and tailor to that homeowner. Like I wasn't joking when I said, if I were to do an open house for you, I think you'd appreciate a good energy, a good vibe. And it's because you're also selling the lifestyle. You're not just selling the home. right? So I want people to see themselves in this property.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, listen, before we say goodbye and shake hands here, I know that you I don't know if you started off, but I know a little bit about you, that you were in broadcasting. I also know that you're a big Raptors fan as well. So tell us a little bit about your broadcasting stint, if you still do it, and how did you get into it, and then transition over to the real estate side?
Great question. So I get asked this a lot, and I love telling the story because it's super fun. I'm super proud of it, and it's just something that I'm going to continue to evolve in. So pre-COVID, I was in sport media, writing and reporting. So we covered Raptors games, Leafs games, all of Toronto's major league sports, and grassroots too. So when I first started, I must have been out of high school. First year out, shout out to North Pole Hoops. I contacted North Pole Hoops and I said, I really want to get involved in this basketball and in this sport world here in Toronto. I'm like, okay, let's go meet for lunch. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm like, I'm all excited. We meet for lunch and they're like, okay, well, we would like you on our team. Cool. When do I start? What's going on? Like, well, we have a showcase in Niagara. You want to come do that? I'm like, absolutely. I was scorekeeping, a little bit of media. I picked up a few bags of garbage, but my point is I was in that gym. And the community in the world is just so tight-knit and close, where I grew from there on and met a lot of wonderful people, and you including. And yeah, it was all beautiful and bliss and 3-point shots and swishes and all that, but then COVID hit.
Right.
I was with an independent company, so the only people allowed in the bubble were like ESPN, TSN, all the bigwigs. So I'm like, shit, what am I gonna do? During COVID, is the world ending? Is my job gonna come back? What's going on?
Right.
So my wife, she's a designer builder, and we love spending time together. It sounds corny, but it's true. So I'm like, how do I spend more time with her? How do we do this? And then real estate was just something that popped in my head. And my brother-in-law, who had started it years before, he was doing it. And so we thought, okay, this could be a family business.
Yeah.
And 4 years this month, here we are.
Well, listen, you have done an amazing job, and I'm sure you were great at what you did. I never really got to see any of your
I'll dig up some
broadcasting
clips
stuff,
for you.
I'm sure. But you're doing great in the real estate. I really appreciate you coming on and sitting with me and talking about real estate. It's wonderful. Listen, I know there's a lot happening right now in our markets. I really do feel that with and I certainly don't want to talk about tariffs right now, but certainly with the changes that are coming about, we're going to see continue to see some decreases in the interest rate, which hopefully will help get a lot more people out into the market, boost consumer confidence, and just help create a little bit more excitement in the marketplace. So I do see that coming, even though we see a lot of noise right now, south of the border. But anyways, I wanted to thank you. It's a pleasure. It's wonderful to see you. I hope to see you again in another episode of Real Estate Meet Finance. Thank you all to all our viewers. Veronica.
Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.